What's going on, everybody? It's the Intentional Sports Crew back with another video. I'm your host, Matt Elliott, alongside John the Voice. John the Voice, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. And everybody knows our motto. We might not know everything,
but we approach everything with intention. And I'm excited about our segment on tonight. For many of us, sports has been an outlet to escape or pause from real life issues and responsibilities, Matt. Mm-hmm. It's been a catalyst for unification, for partnership, for sacrifice, hard work, especially those who ever been on a team, right? Pee-wee, middle school, high school, you know what it's like. Right. You fight for your brother, your sister next to you. But throughout time, Matt, we have seen and have a plethora of examples of athletes who have been utilizing their platform to speak out regarding some of those real life issues.
Right.
LeBron James has constantly used his platform to shine a light on the evils that have plagued this country. But his words has led to actions, and we've seen some of those actions even with the formation of this voting rights group, which aims to protect African-American voting rights.
Right.
He's also started the I Promise School in his hometown of Akron, Ohio. And some of those things that he's done, right, has gotten the attention of a lot of talking heads around the country. And some of his outspokenness on social issues, political issues, it's drawn the ire of Laura Ingraham, the Fox News host. And of course, she famously said that LeBron James should just shut up and dribble.
Right.
So tonight's segment is called Shut Up and Dribble. And we will be highlighting a few professional athletes, those who are making their way towards the professional field as well, who recognize that they're more than just an athlete and have decided not to shut up and dribble. So I'm excited on tonight to have a special guest who is no stranger to being a catalyst for change in his own community and communities around the country. He's a pastor with a degree in psychology and a doctorate in theology, but he's a change agent who consistently speaks out against racism, against inequalities, and with intention, he has a steady voice for marginalized people and communities. He has made his presence known, speaking about inequality on radio and TV shows all across this country, including CNN. And might I add, he was a 4-year high school football athlete, so he knows something about playing sports, and even in high school. So without further delay, please welcome my big brother, Dr. Heber Brown III. What's going on, Heber?
Hey, everybody. What's up?
Not much.
Jonathan, you forgot that I was an elite athlete at the Harriet Tubman Elementary School playground at 3 o'clock. Dodgeball, kickball, and freeze tag is also on my athletic resume.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So they got your names up on the rafter. And
they carved it in a tree. Right.
So, Matt, we are excited, man. We got Dr. Heber Brown with us. And again, he's done some great and tremendous things, even outside of the dodgeball court, right? So we want to pick his brain a little bit and talk about his contributions to his community. What questions do you have, Matt?
Yeah, so Heber, first, welcome in. Thank you for, your time with us. We definitely appreciate it. As John the Voice stated in the intro, you've done so much for your communities and surrounding communities and across the, the nation. We just want to know, where did the inspiration, or how did you come about, being an advocate, for these communities and social injustices around communities? How did that come about?
I'll say 2 F's, Matt, 2 F's. Okay. One, family. Growing up, watching the example of those in my family who were not satisfied with individual success, but had a heart for selfless service for others, trying to do their part to make a difference. It became the expectation, even if not explicitly stated, just by their example, that I would follow and do likewise. And so I was grateful to have that example, and also to have the room to see how that showed up for me, that every family member has their own unique fingerprint and has the room to kind of find where they land and settle there. And so I'm grateful for family. And then secondly, Matt, I would say faith. Faith also. I mean, it was impossible for me to read the Bible and to read about Jesus being concerned about the sick and the hungry, those who were castaways in society, and him raising his voice and rolling up his sleeves to do something about it. I could not just say amen to Jesus and not also feel compelled to say, all right, well, if he's doing that, let me do in this time what I read that he did in his time. And so I think those are two of the main motivators for me to try to live life in such a way that, sure, I want to be successful, but not at the expense of others, and success in and of itself is not satisfying. I want my life to matter for something far more than that.
Right, exactly. That's great. You know, not helping yourself, but also helping others. That's what we want to do, you know, in our lifetime, and that'll definitely leave a legacy when we move on. Definitely. And the next question, Heber, you started and you founded this Black Church Food Security Network organization. You know, a group of farmers, group of community activists. You guys are just trying to help feed people in need of food. Tell me how that came about as well.
Yeah, so as John the Voice mentioned, I pastor a church, and I started noticing many in my congregation who had diet-related illnesses, and they were on this merry-go-round of going into the hospital, coming out the hospital, going back in the hospital, and after saying scriptures and prayers and giving encouragement over and over and over again, I started saying, wait a minute, I'll keep on praying and everything else.
Right.
But is there something else that I could do as well? And that's where the idea came and really guided me toward establishing an organization that really tries to provide a systematic solution, not a one-time or one-off or, do a one day of service. Here's your box of food. But like you said, connecting Black farmers and Black churches to try to create an alternative food system. Again, trying to systematize it to the level where even when I'm gone from here, Black farmers will still be here, Black churches will still be here, and hopefully they can continue. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure of it. But hopefully it can continue to show that we just don't have to be reliant and dependent on the big corporate food systems. And especially at a time like we're living in right now, and I think it all the more important that we create as many lanes and avenues of self-sufficiency as possible, so that if something else ain't working, we still, we're not left high and dry. We got something in our pocket.
Something to fall back on. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Matt, I talked about in, the intro about LeBron James, right? And we think about, of course, one of the best athletes of all time. We can have a debate whether he's number one or not. But LeBron James has cemented himself as one of the best basketball players of all time. And I think it's interesting to see the layers of LeBron James, right? He's more than just that. He's been speaking out about injustices. Of course, him, Colin Kaepernick, and so many athletes have kind of led the charge that there's more that's happening outside of the arenas and the stadiums that they need to put some attention towards. We have last week, we have a prominent soccer player who spoke out about some of the things LeBron James has been doing. And Dr. Heber, we want to get your opinion about this because, of course, I think you're a great example of, you don't just stay in your one lane, right? You're a pastor, as you mentioned, but you're more than just a pastor, right? And there's more than just pastoring a congregation that you're doing. And of course, you're committing to the community. And so I want to even talk about that based off of that soccer player. And Matt, what can you read that quote from last week? What happened last week, man? Let's dive into that a little bit.
All right, so John the Voice, this is the quote from Zlatan Ibrahimovic, okay? And I'm gonna read it word for word. LeBron is phenomenal at what he is doing, but I don't like when people have some kind of status, they go and do politics at the same time. Do what you're good at, do the category you do. I play football because I'm the best at playing football. And he goes on to say, I don't do politics. If I would be a politician, I would do politics. That is the first mistake people do when they become famous and they become in a certain status. Stay out of it. Just do what you do best because it doesn't look good. So he kind of called LeBron out by name there. Not kind of, he did call LeBron out by name, right? Yeah. Then, a couple of days later, he kind of tried to, come back, trying to generalize, but still kind of double back on his original quote. He recently said, athletes unite the world. Politics divided. Our role is to unite the world by doing what we do best. Athletes should be athletes and politicians should be politicians. Heber, what are your thoughts on that quote from a star athlete to another star athlete? What do you think about that?
white privilege on display. Let me just put it out there straight like that. For him to basically give his version of shut up and dribble to LeBron and to say, listen, you're good at one thing, just do that one thing and forget about the other things. I say that it's white privilege because most of the world does not have the luxury to turn on and turn off the challenges that impact our communities. And particularly when we talk about the Black community, we don't have that luxury to say, you know what, just do that one thing and don't care about the rest of your family. Don't care about the rest of your community. You wouldn't say that, you wouldn't expect somebody to turn a blind eye if they were in other professions, but you honor them as, yes, I'm pastor. Yes, I'm Harriet Tubman Elementary School dodgeball champion. And I'm a writer, public speaker.
Yeah.
And so this idea that you just have to be this one thing, and we don't want to honor, we don't want to lift up and celebrate the other aspects of your identity. So in fact, don't be human. Be a cog in the wheel of our entertainment,
right,
and that's it. But the other things that make up who you are, we're not interested at all. I think it's white privilege to the hill for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Heber, I mean, that's very interesting. So what, as a country, what is the next step for us? And again, I think there's a lot of athletes who are speaking up now, right? And it's not just LeBron. We see Naomi Osaka speaking up. Again, I mentioned Colin Kaepernick and so many other football athletes, but even now in every single sport, right? Soccer, female soccer players, U.S. Female soccer team, baseball teams, every sport now is saying, hey, listen, NASCAR, every sport is saying, okay, we need to address this thing, right? There are things that's happening for this country. What are some of the things, what do you think as athletes, do you think that they need to continue doing what they're doing? What's the next step for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what LeBron is doing, and I'm so glad, I mean, this is Women's History Month, so shout out to all the dynamic Black women, Naomi Osaka, who's one of my favorites. And really, to be honest, my fandom when it comes to Naomi Osaka really just went even higher when she started wearing masks with the names of those who've been killed by police on them, when she started making comment, when she started walking out or threatening to walk out from matches. Really just sticking her neck out and using her privilege in a powerful way as an athlete. And then, of course, you didn't say this in your list, John the Voice, but we have to shout out the WNBA.
For sure.
I mean, as a unified voice, WNBA players have really taken the lead in so many respects in challenging institutional racism and police brutality, white supremacy, going down the line. And I think, yes, I absolutely think it should continue. It helps to make more room for those who will come after them, for them to raise their voices as well. It helps also to set a pattern. Just like I said, faith and family was the influences that had me show up in this way. Yeah. They are inspiring young athletes in middle school and high school. LeBron is being watched. Naomi Osaka is being watched. The WNBA is being watched. Yeah. Not just for their backstroke or their jump shot, but they're also being watched for how they show up in the larger society. And I just also want to say, going back to Ibrahimovic's comment, that, if you're just talking about elections and elected officials, if that is the extent of what politics is, you have a very narrow view of politics. Electoral politics, pulling a lever or now pushing a button, voting somebody, that's one part of politics.
Yeah.
But do you know it's also political when it comes to the quality of the water in your children's school, whether there's lead in the water or not, whether there's poor air quality in neighborhood, that's political. Why? Because decisions are made with respect to water and air, where the cemeteries get placed and what neighborhoods get placed where, and all zoning, all of that kind of stuff, that's political too. Wow. And so I think it's impossible. If you're asking us not to be political, you're really asking us not to be human, because even to be alive, even us tonight, this is a very political thing that we're doing. even tonight. And so I think for those athletes that are out there making a difference, I say, yes, it is amazing. They are extending the tradition of people like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And y'all remember, y'all are very intentional about your sports. And so you remember and you know that Muhammad Ali stuck his neck out challenging U.S. foreign policy in Vietnam, and it cost him greatly.
Yeah.
But then Colin Kaepernick follows in the footpaths of Muhammad Ali, and now he's being lifted up, and so he'll never play football again.
No.
But he'll be remembered for so much more beyond football for generations to come, because he chose to stand on the shoulders of Muhammad Ali in that way, and so many others. Tommy Carlos, we're so grateful for Olympics, Mexico, 1968, the Black Power Fist. Y'all remember that as well. And so these brothers standing up and taking a risk to say, you know what, John Carlos, Tommy Smith, we're going to raise our fist to send a message that we have not forgotten our people, and we have not forgotten where we come from. So here's my hope. My hope is that those players in travel leagues and basketball and football, soccer, I pray that they see what LeBron is doing, because here's my take on LeBron. He and his team, when I say his team, I'm talking about his business partners, his enterprise. LeBron is trying to be the greatest, not just on the court.
Yeah,
he really is, and he's being, as the name of the show, he's being so intentional.
Yeah, he is.
You said it, John, the voice, the school, the voter suppression efforts that he was fighting against for this last election, and so much more.
Yeah,
he's being very intentional, and it's very clear to me that he's not just chasing Jordan or Kobe's records.
Yeah,
he wants to be remembered for generations to come, as much for what's going on off the court as on the court. I can only hope that young athletes see that and are inspired by that as well.
Well, I think it's really interesting, because I think they're starting to see it, right? And so to your point, we're going to start to see a trickle down effect and impact. And even when I'm going to bring up some names, and some of these names, a lot of people may not know right now, right? But they will know some of these athletes in the next coming years, right? And so we see a lot of young people, we see young Black millennials now thinking about and looking at the example of Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, Naomi Osaka, the WNBA players, saying, how can I give back to my community? How can I play my part as well? And so we see a 5-star athlete, basketball athlete by the name of Mikey Williams. Mikey Williams is a top 5 player in the class of 2023. He'll have his pick of any college he wants to go to, right? Kentucky, Florida, Kansas, Michigan State, you name it. Any top team would love to have him. And he is actively considering multiple HBCUs. Of course, HBCU, for those who don't know, stands for Historical Black College or University. And he is considering multiple HBCUs. We already seen a 5-star athlete, a big-time center, right, by the name of McCord Maker, who last year he signed with Howard University. Right. And now he's at Howard and he's injured right now, but still his impact of signing there has brought revenue dollars, television dollars, a whole lot of eyes on HBCU institutions that's in Black communities, right? And so a lot of times you see that the top athletes, whether they're Black or not, they go to other schools, Dr. Heber and Matt, and they bring dollars and eyes and revenue to those institutions. So now you start to see that trickle down impact to HBCUs as well. And I really even look at kind of the next step. I think there's going to be a trend of some of the top African-American athletes going to HBCUs.
I couldn't agree more, because I think about with these athletes, sorry, Matt, I think about with these athletes, the reason why they were going to these, schools that are more regularly on ESPN or what have you, they wanted the exposure.
Right.
They're trying, they have goals to get to the next level.
Yep.
And now, and that was the route to go. You go to Tennessee, you go to Kansas, you go to Kentucky or Connecticut or whatever.
Right.
But what happens when you can get exposure on your own terms in other ways that is not controlled by these schools?
Yeah.
And I think that with social media, I think that, with more younger people paying attention to what these athletes are doing. I think that with moves like with the NBA, they got a G League now. There's another avenue.
Right.
So now NCAA is not the only avenue. Okay, bet. So let me look at all my options and let me make the best decision for me and also make a contribution. Let me say finally too, I think about, and this is before all of our time, but there was a time when Black folk had their own leagues, or there was a time when the HBCU was the only option, and that was the best football, the best baseball. Think about the Negro leagues. You had some of the best baseball being played in the Negro leagues, and I, for one, am one that believes that we lost something as a community when we abandoned what we had to be fully and solely in in a dynamic that we do not own. I wonder what it could have looked like to say, listen, we're going to hold on to what we got because this thing is special. And we're going to, continue to kind of go back and forth. But what if this is more of a, not just a, what LL Cool, well, y'all don't know. Before y'all were born, there was a rap artist named LL Cool J. And he said, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. HBCU's been here for years. And so with these younger players coming home, it's like, wait, is this about to be a thing? And we ain't even talk about Deion Sanders down there at Jackson State.
Yeah.
And anybody watching his social media, you're seeing the prime time energy coming to Jackson State to the point where I feel like going back to play. I want to strap up. I want to play for Prime.
Yeah.
Because he makes it seem fun and engaging and encouraging. And then you got this supportive cocoon of the Black community at HBCUs around you at a time when the broader society has a target on your back.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, John, I think that more younger athletes are going to be considering it not just for the sports value, but that supportive cocoon that they can receive to help launch them to their next stage as well.
Exactly. It's interesting you said that because I actually saw an article the other day that I saw. It said Deion Sanders can give, these athletes something that, the power top 5 schools can't give, which is a sense of community. It's a close-knit family, HBCUs, you walk on campus, you see everybody, you know everybody. At these huge schools, you see people you may not ever see again, so you can have that sense of family and really feel it because you see these people, you interact with them, every day, Another thing I want to bring up too, you guys talked about, the funds that come into these big schools and things like that. That also, goes into their training facilities, all the equipments they have. And, to a young person coming straight out of high school, that stuff is like a shiny penny. I want to use that stuff. I want to play on that court. I want to do this, and you may not have that opportunity at a HBCU. Again, you brought up Deion Sanders, Dr. Heber. He talked about the inequalities, uneven training tables, fields that were, not in good quality, outdated helmets, uniforms, things like that. So if these kids and these 5-star recruits are coming to these HBCUs, bringing in that revenue, then they can start to build up those, get those things up. And, we, like you said, we've been here for years, but we're just going to, build it back up again.
Quickly on Deion Sanders, because I think if he stays as the head coach at Jackson State for some time, and again, we'll see prime time, man, you can't hold him down for long, but if he really gets connected and stays at Jackson State, he'll grow something that we haven't seen probably ever as far as the HBCU is concerned. His first year, this recruiting class that he brought in, and again, this is with short notice because, of course, when he started, right, a lot of that stuff has already happened when it comes to, evaluating talent and getting out there and building these relationships like that. Recruiting has already started, and already you've seen massive transfers to Jackson State University with former 4- and 3-star athletes that play at Power 5 schools, right? They play at LSU, they played at Missouri, they played at Tennessee, and they're transferring to a HBCU in Jackson State. And then he was able to sign a 4-star quarterback. Now, it happens to be his son that he signed. But again, a 4-star athlete that was signed at South Carolina with the Gamecocks is now going to Jackson State University. We're going to see Jackson State really be able to compete with some of the mid-major schools moving forward, especially if they keep up this recruiting. So the impact is already there in year one. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen after that.
I agree. I mean, I think if the issue is exposure, Prime is giving the school more exposure now than they've had in a long time. And we have to acknowledge Jackson State, they've had players come out from Jackson State to go to the league and make a big difference. But Prime is going to bring exposure. Prime is going to attract resources. Prime had Troy Aikman come to his first game to check it out. And the cameras are going to follow. Troy Aikman's there. Okay, turn the camera on that game. Prime is there. Aikman's there. Other players are going to come alongside. And maybe some other former NFL players will follow suit. Because it's like, listen, you made the money. What else you want? You got a big house. You're comfortable. You made your money. How about give back? And I think that wave, along with the wave of young athletes wanting to make a difference, that coming together is a powerful force. And so I really do hope and pray that that continues and we see more top talent connecting with those veterans and those. I mean, I think about, you know, and it's a little bit different, but I do think about Ice Cube and the Big Three. I mean, just more, there's more of a desire to have an ownership stake on the field and off the court. Both. We want an ownership stake. We want our say. We don't want to be muffled. So when you tell us shut up and dribble, oh, no. It ain't the kind of party no more. We have our own platforms now. We have contracts beyond the game itself. And so much more to look at there.
You know, before we move on real quick, can I shout out Juan Dixon, University of Maryland product, of course, NCAA championship, has a NCAA championship. What was that, 2000, 2001? Yeah, of course, with Steve Blake and others on that team, Lonnie Baxter. I love that team. Right. But shout out to Juan Dixon. He's the head coach of the Coppin State Eagles, another HBCU. And he's doing big things with that program. They actually just won their division in the MEAC, right? They won their division. So, you know, trying to get that team to the NCAA tournament. But that's another, you know, big time athlete. He's a big time name. And again, he did play in the NBA. I remember he was drafted first round by the Washington Wizards, you know, but he's giving back to his community. And not just, and that's the big thing, Dr. Heber, is that they're not just going to these schools, right? They're also winning. Right. At the end of the day, you know, any athlete, whether you black, white, whatever, you want to go to a winner. Right. And so it doesn't hurt that Juan Dixon has a winning program. And Deion Sanders, again, I know they played a Division II school, but they won that first game with all the cameras. What was it, 50-something to nothing? Yeah, blew them out. Right. So we black, we proud, we're about our community, but we're also winners as well. So I think that's also a big thing to note.
Very important. Shout out to Coppin real quick. I went to Morgan State, and Coppin and Morgan are intense rivals. I got a little mixed feeling about it. But shout out to Coppin for winning the division. That's awesome. And shout out to Coach Dixon.
Dr. Heber, man, we're so grateful that you were able to spend a little bit of time with us. This is not our last time doing this segment. I think it's important as we celebrate different athletes, different sports, different teams, that we also take time to talk through real life issues and how we do have an impact outside of just the jersey we put on, that we have an impact to our communities and those who are less fortunate, those who are in communities that don't get the same privilege as others. Right. And so we are very, very grateful that you were able to spend some time with us. And we want you to know, Dr. Heber, please don't stop. Continue to do what you're doing. Don't shut up and dribble, Dr. Heber.
No, I'm going to keep on going. And listen, real quick, let me say that I'm grateful for what these athletes are doing. And I can't wait to come back and bring other athletes and other stories that might get buried in the headlines or buried down in the fold. Because I think that if these athletes continue, then we won't have to look at sports as an escape from reality. I want to get to the place where sports is an extension of the good reality that we're living. So I don't have to take a mental break. It's just fruit from the vine of an already good life. And I think if these athletes keep it up, we'll get that much closer to sports being a enjoyment and not an escape, because life is good.
Right.
That's really good. Well, Dr. Heber, thank you, man. Shout out to Dr. Heber Brown III. What a great segment. Shut Up and Dribble. That was so inspiring. I love that segment so much. It won't be the last time, Matt, we'll have him on the show. What do you think about this segment tonight?
Man, this segment was very enlightening. He came with a lot of knowledge, a lot of facts.
Yeah.
We know Doc knows his stuff. So it was good talking with him. And we hope everybody out there was listening as well. And make sure, if you have not already, subscribed to our YouTube page, Intentional Sports. Also, make sure to follow us on IG. You can follow me at MJE Productions. John the Voice, let them know where they can follow you.
You can follow me on IG at John the Voice. And Matt, as we say, whatever you do, do it with intention.